Hey y'all, and welcome back to the Mace Family Kitchen. Of course, we've been watching Joe do some amazing buttermilk biscuits. One of the only breads that I really love to eat. So for me tonight, it's all about that red chili. New Mexico is so famous for their different varieties of chili. And it's one of the things that I really embrace, having been raised here. So for me tonight, it's all about the enchiladas. Have to have them. They're one of my all-time favorites. Red chili enchiladas in not just a traditional way, but also a very untraditional kind of thing. And this is just because, as I always tell you, change your food, make it different, do other things. And pretty soon we'll be getting the meat on and we'll get this started. All right, guys, we're back. I have in my pot 3 pounds of hamburger meat and actually 2 pounds of ground sausage. I just like to have a little bit more flavor added, and sausage does have an amazing flavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add red chili. My preference over the years has been to take the dried chili pods and make my own. However, about a year ago, I bought some red chili pods, and the way, of course, you do that is to put them in boiling water until they soften up, and then you add them to a blender with some water and some garlic. But about a year ago, I got some that I don't actually know what happened, but they made Joe and I sick. And then I bought some more, thinking it was just a crazy coincidence. And that didn't go so well either. So I kind of got off that train and went to using the frozen chili. So I'm just adding frozen. I will put garlic in it. And I know a tip that I use, and not everybody is great about it, is that I will add brown sugar, because at times chili changes, given the amount of water we have during the year, given what the circumstances are for the year. Sometimes it will get bitter. I don't always use it. It's a tip in case it should have a little bit of bitterness to it, and I would not tell you put like 6 spoons of sugar into it. It takes very, very little, and you'll only know it after you kind of get going with things. You'll take a taste of this and decide whether or not you feel it needs it. So, okay, I can't get the other chili out, because of course it's frozen. But the one thing that is important is to let everything get very incorporated. So I try and dig a hole in the meat and make sure that it kind of gets toward the bottom. I could have used a different pan. However, I am learning that these nice cast irons that I bought, they have the red enamel on the outside. The inside is actually much better, in my opinion, for cooking things. Things don't stick as easily as, let's say, just a regular cast iron. I find these have a little bit of give on the bottom a little more. So I actually adore using them. So we're going to add our chili. I will add about 2 tablespoons of garlic salt, maybe 4 given as much meat. And I like I said, I use a lot of meat because I do tend to give things out to people and, you know, make somebody else's day happy. So I'll probably use anywhere between 2 and 4. We'll just see kind of how it looks. And then I will test it after all the chili melts down and see if it's going to need a little bit of brown sugar to take the bitterness out. I don't do I don't find it happens that often. Just every once in a while. Sometimes the season just doesn't get off to a hit, and we'll have some bitterness to the chili. Now, I always cook with a mild, and it is a good step to do if you're going to give it to somebody else and their palate may not allow them to eat something hot, especially in the extreme hots in New Mexico. That's awful because it can be extremely, extremely hot and really alarm your guests. So what I do is I always start out with a mild, because you can also offer salsas and chili sauces, but you can't take that heat away and destroy a dinner. So the best thing is to just start out with a mild, maybe buy a sauce or a salsa or something like that that will allow you to add heat, but not necessarily to the whole dinner. So we'll be back as soon as this kind of starts simmering out. All right, so we're back and we have our chili started here. So right now it's still a little wet, and this is not particularly the way you'd want to use the meat. It's okay if you do. Sometimes I will strain the chili out from the meat a little bit so that I can use the chili as well on the top of the enchilada. So it's an option. So I'm going to now add the garlic.
I was going to say, watch the coals so they can see from up top.
So this is a teaspoon, just because I was having trouble sticking a tablespoon in this. So it's going to be 6 teaspoons for me, and that's, like, we just love garlic in the house. There's never a time when garlic is not a fan favorite. So we're going to let this mend itself and blend itself and whatever it needs to do, and then we will come back and start putting enchiladas together. As I said, I'm going to make 2, but I'm going to let this really simmer out a little bit, have that chili really work into the meat. We're going to go ahead and make sure that the garlic takes the flavor inside here, because sometimes, and it's the same reason I say use dry spices as well sometimes that flavor just doesn't come across, and if you really want to taste it, that is the best way to accomplish it. Is sometimes it's unfortunate, but dry spices can add more than your wet spices. All right, we'll be right back as soon as we're done letting this simmer off. So I just wanted to add a small detail. First off, the chili I used was a red chili. This is, of course, a mild, as I've said, and it is a 12-ounce tub. So that's quite a lot of red chili, actually. The other thing is that if you are one of my crock potters, so this to make it easy, you can fry up the meat the night before, stick it in the crock pot with the chili and let it simmer all day. You just need to make sure that it's wet enough so that it doesn't burn the meat or the chili to the side of the crock pot. Let it go for the day. When you come home, you can just roll up your enchiladas or do a flat, almost huevos rancheros like enchilada, so that you can have it when you're ready to be home, but still have a little bit to do after. All right, so we're back. What we're going to do now is set up the tortillas for and here in New Mexico, tortillas, to start our layering process. I was going to do rolls, but when you're making quite a few, it does tend to change how you feel about doing everything, especially when you're busy and you have a lot going on. Stacking and layering is usually easier than doing 50,000 rolled tortillas. So right now what I have is extra virgin olive oil. You can use veg oil. This is really up to you. I'm a big fan of olive oil though. So what I'm going to do is I'm adding enough to allow it to cover the tortilla. And the reason is because you're going to really just put it in, and so once it's heated, not to a point it's popping, but once it starts heating up and you have a little sizzle on it, you're just going to put it in, turn it over, and set it on a paper towel. You don't have to do the paper towel thing, but I really do hate when everything's so oily. I drain and clean my meat. I put my tortillas on plates. I mean, you're gonna get oil from the cheese, oil from the meat, oil from the tortillas if you do it all without draining or cleaning up anything. So, not really something I want to do to myself, even though I'm using a healthier oil and the meat's leaner. That's just a lot of oil coming in. So to be a little bit healthier, we try to make sure that we have not overstepped the oil process. So what we're looking for here, I don't know if it'd be easier to see. No, it doesn't look like it, but so you're gonna just test a little corner of your tortilla, and when you put it in, it'll start kind of bubbling around it. But you don't want it so hot that it actually cooks it, because you're just looking for soft and pliable, not hard. You're not making a tostada. It gets complicated to cook, change. So you're not trying to make tostadas out of this. So this is pretty much what you're gonna do during the process. Of course, I'm gonna make a lot. And remember, tongs always give you trouble when you're doing this kind of stuff. So this still could use a little more heat. It's starting to get there. So I'll usually add like 4 to my plate, and then throw another paper towel on top of it. And that's just, like I said, it's just taking out oils. If it's a step you don't want to include, definitely do what you gotta do. So I'm gonna finish off actually quite a few, because as I said, I'm making some for some friends. So this isn't extremely hot. If you start seeing the tortilla bubble and things like that, that's not where you want to be. Tongs. So we're putting it in. Now that it's getting hotter, we're flipping it over. We're looking for the sides to kind of come down, and we're taking it out. So we're making pliable, not hard. Hard will definitely cause some problems when you try and eat, unless you mean it to be that way. So if you want half a taco in there, sure. You know, that's all up to you. So I have just a little more oil so that I can do several of the tortillas. This is a corn tortilla, yellow or white. That is the question. I don't really have a preference either way. Throughout my upbringing, I have always used yellow because my family did, but neither is a wrong choice. Again, it's something of preference. So I'm gonna do probably somewhere between about 20 and 30 of these, and then we'll come back to assemble it. All right, so we're back. Finally, the last step in this process. So I had all my tortillas done. So if you can see, there's just a lot of oil from cooking them. Now, if you want to get past that oil option at all, there's trash over here. All you have to do is use a chicken broth or some of the chili from the meat you made, or another type of chili that you may have. Some people do like that. So we're gonna put 4 of the tortillas on the bottom. Turn this a little bit. So what you stuff in the middle, your choice. I used a slotted spoon so that I don't absolutely cover them with everything. You know, with having all that juice in there, which means when you try and eat it, of course, it's all gonna go spilling all over the place. So we're gonna do a layer this way. And in my house, cheese is king. So we're gonna add that nice layer of cheese. And then we'll do one more layer of tortillas. Which is why you end up frying off so many. And if you're like me, you can hardly catch it with the tongs because it slips from the tongs often. All right, so the nice thing is this part is simple. We're almost done. It's a very fast process. Now you can do these in single, like a layer, where you put it on a plate, one tortilla, then the meat, and the cheese, and meat and cheese. So you end up with 2 tortillas in there. Always perfectly acceptable. These are gonna go into the oven at 350. And really, if you think back, everything is cooked. So all you're really doing is melting cheese. And it does take a minute to get all the way through both layers of cheese.
All right, I'm gonna leave.
But it really is not that long. So we're gonna continue on. This one is gonna have cheese and green chili. It's just something that I like. I'm not much of a meat eater, so I always like to have an option for myself. We're gonna go back with the 4 corn tortillas. But instead of doing the meat, we're gonna start out with the cheese. A lot of cheese. All right, and then I chopped up some green chili. So of course, hatch green chili always comes down around August, September, which is always such an amazing thing around New Mexico. No, people, this is not bell pepper. It is a flavor all on its own. So this is Anaheim chili. If you're in California, the flavor is still so different. It's such a hard thing to describe to people, and when people ask me about it, it's kind of one of those things where you go, well, it's not this and it's not that, and they kind of look at you like, well, then what is it? So I'm gonna do, which we would call Christmas around here, just a little bit of the red chili sauce, which of course has the hamburger in it. I didn't say vegetarian necessarily, but this is a step you don't have to do. I just happen to like it. I kind of like the Christmas situation with what I eat. I just don't eat a ton of meat. So we're gonna go back in do the next 4 tortillas, cheese, and of course my oven telling me that 350 has been achieved. Now for my crock potters, the meat and stuff would already be done. You can always pre-stage things like chili or cut up onions or lettuce, anything that you want to have on top of the meal after it's cooked. Lettuce and onions is usually the biggest things. So now that we're gonna get this into the oven, and of course my crock potters, you will always need to add this to the oven just to melt that cheese. All right, so we're a mess because, you know, green chili's wet and then you touch cheese. So we're all done. We have, yes, we should show this here. We have the red chili enchilada, and then my own personal blend enchilada for me. Whatever you like to do, if you like something else in it, it's always up to you. You know, be creative with your food. This is the one place where if you know something tastes good with something else, you can be experimental. Do it in small things if you're really not sure what it would taste like. But this is a great meal, and it's a great warm meal at the end of the night. Here in New Mexico, this is more like our comfort food. As always, God bless. I'm gonna get to making some for friends.